undergrad is geography and sociology, and grad is interdisciplinary philosophy, theology, creative nonfiction. I had no idea there were cherry tomatoes before I worked on a farm, so I knew nothing. I mean, really nothing when I started.
I started just as an employee, as a high school kid, just working in the fields during the summer. I worked on the same farm for 5 years or so and became manager after a little while. And then decided to break off on my own.
We both kind of were moving on from the work we were doing. He didn't really want to be in the classroom, and I didn't want to be in an office as much. So it made sense, you know, to try something outside with all his knowledge and skills, and then I kind of learned as I went along.
In, I don't know, maybe the last 5 or 6 years, there have been maybe a greater proportion of people who are interested in just starting out.
It's a lot of people who didn't come from farming, but a lot of people who said, I need to be outside, or need to use my body, or I don't want to be making things for Facebook or Google. So I think it's attracting a lot of really interesting people. So for me, it's like I could be, you know, growing bamboo to make bicycles, or I could be, so to me, I like this.
The learning curve behind farming is really substantial. Unless you come from farm family or have been involved in farming, I consider myself a beginner.
Someone who doesn't have doesn't come from a farming background, but they decide that that's something that they want to get into. I think kind of getting up to speed on all the different things that are involved with running a farm can be a challenge. There's a huge learning curve. Any farmer has got to be a little bit of a soil scientist, a little bit of a botanist, a little bit of an entomologist, or a plant pathologist. And on top of all that, they've got to be a savvy business person. So, you know, that's a pretty tall order.
Everything we'd ever saved has gone into the farm. And what did we do? We went right out, we rototilled all the fields, turned them to dirt, planted sunflowers. They grew. The first year was like, yes, we're farmers, this is fantastic. So what happens? You rototill it, and because it's a hill, all the nutrients and all the little aggregates just go right down the hill. Well, we basically knew that we needed help because we kind of just bumbled into it.
With the establishment of the land-grant university system, as part of that, they required that each state have a way of doing outreach for people who weren't necessarily enrolled in classes. What I do is help people figure out how to farm better, if I had to boil it down to just one sentence.
He gave us a farm visit, and he looked at our soil and looked at our sunflowers and gave me real-time help. His visit was an indicator that we needed help.
He's been coming over here for years, and ever since we started, you know. Well, he's local and he's our extension agent, and we definitely needed some advice.
Fertile Fields, CSA, those were people that I think might have had less experience with starting up a farm, but you know, they've worked really hard, gotten the word out. They've also been able to have their number of shareholders growing each year.
We have been taking on different ways of making the farm successful. If someone else is interested in getting into that, whether it's dairy or something with the gardens or CSAs, we can let them know what worked well for us, what doesn't work. There are small farmers out there that are just getting started, and they may need some help with learning how to do things.
Labor is a big issue. I don't know of any farm that really has more labor than what they know what to do with.
Inefficient hand labor here that, in a way, you could say that's unsustainable. But, you know, we're doing something good until the soil is being treated well. We're not destroying the soil and all these nice lumps of structure here, you know.
You know, a lot of farmers are really forced to think on sort of an annual basis often. You can do things that are sort of too destructive, too much of a disturbance that you can compromise, you know, your future productivity and yield for a short-term gain. farmers are forced to sort of, they have to make some hard choices there, and they're not easy, I think. The other thing they're wedged in between is they're just trying to make a bottom line sometimes. I think that's tough.
If we can grow something on this farm, if Michael and I personally can grow something on this farm that isn't back-breaking, body-breaking labor, something that we really can do with what we've got on hand, we can stay in this lifestyle. If in about 7 years, which is when we'll be out of money, if we don't have a solid income in 7 years, we have to